Hello and welcome to the Everyone Has a Story podcast. Now, I know all of us out there, we've experienced really good examples of teams. Now, I'm a sporting fan. I love the Denver Broncos. I know when they're playing like a really good team, and I know when they're playing like a really, really bad team. I know we've seen other examples on stage. We've actually seen it in business. But really, what is the secret sauce? Why is there some really good teams and why are there some really poor teams? Now, I know the good teams, I know there's got to be more than just everything just falling into place. There's got to be some really good practice, very good routines, discipline, whatever. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And so many times I hear business professionals talking about how things just seem to fall into place. Well, in business, things don't fall into place. Now, like when I was dating my wife, we hadn't got married yet. When I'm dating my wife, I realized that her family had something that my family never had. It really had that cohesiveness. It was really a good event just to go there and experience her family because I never got to experience that as I was growing up. And then as I started dating her a little bit longer, and as a year goes by, you know you're going to at least experience someone's birthday in that. Well, come to find out that my wife had two sisters, both older. One sister's husband was born on March 27th, and the other sister's husband was born on March 29th. Guess what day I was born on? Exactly, March 28th. So I fit into that void very nicely. And so everybody always talked about how I completed that puzzle. I was that missing link to that puzzle. Well, businesses, football teams, baseball teams, events on the stage, they don't just happen that easy. They don't just fill in the void that easily. And that's what we're going to talk about today with my guest, John Britton. So, John, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
This is great to have you. And if everybody couldn't recognize that accent, yes, he is from Ireland, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But John is the founder of Momentum Coaching, and he's an author, but it goes so much more deeper than that. And so really, John, why don't you, before we get started, really tell us a little bit more about you and really what you do and who you are.
Sure. Well, I've come into coaching from a slightly unusual background, which is 30 years of work as an actor, director, trainer of performers, educator, researcher. I mean, my background was actually an English literature degree because my parents wouldn't let me do a drama degree. My parents were working class parents who went, you're not doing something that you can't earn a living with. Do an English literature degree, you can become a teacher. But I kind of stepped sideways and became a performer. Then, because I've always been interested in exploring ideas, I became a director. And then I began to get really interested in some of the big questions that you're actually already asking. What makes a team a team? How do people connect? And so I began to explore that, and I began to teach that. For a while, I was a university academic for about 8 years, where I really wrote my first book there. And my passion has always been in that question of what is an ensemble? What is it that makes a performance, whether it's on film or on stage or out on the street or whatever, music, dance, it doesn't matter. What is it that makes a performance really lift off? You know the feeling. You're sitting there and the hairs go up on the back of your neck. You go, wow, this is not just good, this is a step beyond. What is it? What is that secret sauce? What is that magic? And I don't think it's good enough as a teacher of performers to say, well, it's magic, Just I don't think it's good enough. Some people have got presence and some people haven't. Some people are charismatic and some people aren't. No, all of these things are things that you can train. And I became really interested in the question of training them. And I can't train people in them unless I understand them. Now, I'm increasingly aware that those things are not skills which are only skills for performers. They're life skills. They're connection skills. their collaboration skills, their creativity skills. They are the skills that make the difference between effective collaboration and constantly battling and struggling and you know, all the stress that comes with that. So now my passion is you know, this phrase, what actors know. Yeah. We know a lot, and I want to share that stuff.
And so now let's share it with my community, which is the business leaders and the business owners of the world. So just for everybody to have a better idea of what we're really talking about, what is your definition of ensemble?
Well, people say, what is an ensemble? And I think it's a wrong question, because it suggests an ensemble is a thing. Now, are you talking about the Denver Broncos? Okay. And you say sometimes they're playing like they're a real team and sometimes they're not. But it's the same players. If an ensemble was a thing, once you've made it, it would just work. An ensemble is not a thing. An ensemble is an attitude. It's not something we make, it's something that we do. I can guarantee what's happening when your beloved Denver Broncos are not playing as a team. They're not doing ensemble. You know, they are not doing what is necessary to open up to each other and connect with each other. What is my definition of ensemble? Ensemble is the things we do with our mind, with our thinking, with our attitude, with our senses that enable us to be truly spontaneously connected with each other. If an ensemble was a thing, what happens when somebody leaves and somebody else new comes in? Is that a different ensemble? Has the ensemble ended? No, someone new can come into a functioning team and can really fit in if they have the right attitude. So building ensemble is about developing an ensemble attitude.
And I know you are a big team player, but you're really, really conscientious about all the other participants. And you've always coined the phrase with me, self with others. What did you mean by that?
Okay, well, self with others was the name that I picked for the approach to training performers that I've spent 30 years developing, or 25 years developing. And it's kind of self-explanatory in a sense. There are three elements in that phrase, self with others. What do we have to train an ensemble, to build a really effective team? First, we have to train the self. I have to train myself to be open, to be willing to collaborate, to be humble enough to learn from other people, to be connected, to be present, all of those things. That's the work on the self. Others, I need to be aware of how to relate to and understand and respect others, to be aware of diversity, to be aware of where my skills meet the skills of other people, and so on. So it's an awareness of others. And the third word in there is with. The heart of ensemble, the heart of team, is knowing how to be with. It's not about me, it's not about you, it's about what happens between us. That's the heart of team. You've got your skills, I've got my skills. If we want to make a team, what we're really working with is what happens in the space between us. And so self with others, it really names the three things we have to train when we train ensemble. We train ourselves, we train the awareness of others, and we work crucially with the processes of being with.
That is so important today. You know, you can't even turn on the business news or read the newspaper without hearing, the Great Resignation. I know I brought this up quite a few times on this podcast. And is this a viable solution, this self with others, being part of an ensemble, being the effectiveness of an ensemble to help with this great resignation that we're all going through in the business community?
Look, why would somebody resign from a job? Because they don't want to be there. It's simple. They don't want to be there because they're not paid enough, they think, or they don't want to be there because they don't feel empowered, or they don't feel respected, or whatever. That's why nobody would leave a job if they wanted to be doing that job. With is at the heart of that. If you want to work with a group of people, in theatre or in anywhere else, for anything more than just you do what you're told because I'm paying you this amount of money, if you want anything more than that, you have to make them want to be with you, want to be doing the work. And, the phrase for that is intrinsic motivation. They have to be enjoying their work. How do you enjoy work? Fundamentally, the most important thing is that you have agency. You feel you have a contribution to make. You're not just, a flesh and blood replacement for a robot. You actually are respected and have a creative contribution to make. Now, if I'm making a show, let's say I'm going to put together a show and I get 10 actors in, I am a real idiot if I don't draw on their creative abilities. If I just tell them where to stand and how to speak, what an idiot I would be. Instead, I get 10 actors in. As the manager of the project, I will be taking the lead, I will be initiating things, and I will have the final say over how things are done, because that's my job. But between initiating and the final say, I'm going to take as much of their creativity as I can, because that way we will make something infinitely better than I could make on my own. And surely the same is true in any kind of business environment. Empower the people we work with to make creative contributions, to have agency, and they will want to stay with us.
Well, I can feel your passion towards this topic. So you brought up the business community. So let's talk directly to them. How is this going to really apply, in your eyes, to the businesses, the business community, the leaders out there who are succeeding, but not really getting everything they want out of their team, or the ones that are just completely failing?
If you think about what you do when you're building a team in performance, what do performers have to do? Performers need to deliver a structure, deliver a script, but be reactive enough to change things if the unexpected happens, to keep it live all the time, to make it fresh all the time. Performers need to deliver on time every time. You can't sort of get the audience in at 7:30 and go, I'm not feeling like it, we'll delay it till 9:00. You deliver on time every time. Performers need to collaborate with each other so that my skills meet your skills, and together we make something bigger than either of us can achieve on our own. Performers need to be driven by passion and excitement, because nobody wants to watch a performer doing something that they look bored with. These are the deep level skills performers have to learn. Now, think of a business, your business being a team where all the members connect spontaneously. They can really spontaneously build on each other's work and go, yeah, you did that, I can do this. Wow, great response there. Can I do this? And everyone goes, yeah, go for it. Let's do this. A team where what is created by your company is greater than the sum of its parts, not less than the sum of its parts, greater than the sum of its parts. A team, a company that takes its audience, which is your customers, on a shared journey to the point where all of you, the company and the customers, reach the end and go, that was great. That was great. When the sale is made, people go, I'm really glad I worked with your business. And I'm going to tell all my friends about that. Word of mouth is priceless in the arts, and it's priceless in business. Now, you can't make that happen. Just like, I'm sure the people in the Broncos work pretty hard to get a team going, but sometimes it just doesn't gel. It doesn't work. What you can do is create the conditions for teams to emerge. You can make it more likely that things are going to come together. You can lead things in those directions. Now, businesses that can hold teams together so that people get better and better at their work, empower people to make creative contributions so that as people get better at their work, they go, I've got an idea, we could do this slightly differently. And they don't get sort of knocked down into place. They're encouraged to be creative. Those are the businesses, surely, that will not only thrive and grow and evolve and stay ahead of the game, but will also give their customers great service because they will be being served by people who care about what they're doing. You know, we've all been in restaurants where you go, nice food, but the server, you know, bless them, they just don't want to be here. And for me, that leaves a sour taste in my mouth. You know, no food is really good enough for me to feel that it's okay to be served by someone who doesn't want to be serving me, or to be served by someone I think is faking it. I want to be served by someone who, when they come to the table, goes, yeah, this is great, and I've had this, and this is really nice. And have you thought, someone who gives a damn? This is what we have to create in theatre if we're going to make our audience enjoy and tell other people about their journey. And I think these are crucial skills for any business.
Absolutely. And everything you just described so well must be your stage presence that you described that so well. But, you know, the fact of the matter is, I'll bet you every business owner out there went to bed the night before they were going to open up the doors, and they had that vision. I know they did. You know, they just are so in love with their product. They're so excited about their new venture. So where did they fall short? What can the business owner and leaders learn from what you just said? Or what should they learn?
Fall short is difficult, isn't it? Because often what we do, we go in with the greatest of intentions, with genuine intentions, not just to be effective and profitable, but to be ethical and to have a wonderful team and a great time. We have all those intentions, and then we come up against reality. And reality is that something has to be delivered by Friday afternoon and someone's not delivering it and you're panicking and all of that stuff. And we move into top-down or dictatorial or intolerant communication practices. We begin to get drowned in stress and tension. How we solve that, of course, it depends on the particular business owner and the particular context. But the starting point is always, it seems to me, the willingness of the business owner, or if it's somebody in middle management, the head of a division or whatever, the willingness of that person to do the work necessary on themselves to de-stress, to open up, and to become present with the people that they're working with. This is why self with others starts with self. You have to do the work on yourself. If you go, I want a lovely collaborative working environment and, you know, nice sort of a sense of everyone's empowered, and then the first time you're under pressure, you go, do it my way and do it now. You haven't done enough work on yourself. You're not bad. You're not failing, but it's telling you have not done enough work on yourself to align with your best vision. And so if you want to align with your best vision, start with the work on yourself. There is personal work and there is structural work to be done, or personal work and technical work, if you prefer that way of looking at it. But it always starts with the personal work.
So let's go the other side of that gap. We've now talked about the team, the self, but now all business owners, they've been led to believe that one of their more important key predictive indicators is your bottom line, your return on investment. So let's talk to that area for a second.
Mm-hmm.
What is going to be the real benefits of that organization when they really have the company in what I'm going to call ensemble mode?
Longevity, growth, creative evolution, impassioned and empowered employees who will go the extra mile when the difficulty is there. People not wanting to participate in the Great Resignation. Customers who either explicitly or just in their bones know that they have worked with a company that makes them feel good about spending their dollar there. All of these things, you might not, if you do this work, your profits might not go up 20% this year, although they might. But I wouldn't, I am certain, and I've seen it certainly in performance world as well as in the corporate world, the investment in the growth of an empowered, creative team ensemble culture is an investment in longevity. The gradual and ultimately exponential increase in the bottom line, which takes time, but it's the thing that comes when you go, okay, this team has now been together 3 years. We all know the job really well. And this person who came in at this level is now at this level. And every one of them is passionate about the company. And now the recession hits. That company is going to survive because people are going to go the extra mile. Not because you force them to, but because they want to. And I don't think there's anything more powerful for a company than its staff and its customers wanting that company to survive.
So I hope everybody should rewind this component, this portion of this podcast, because what he just says just is a good solution to, number one, what the business community is dealing with the Great Resignation. Also, the fact that 82% of all small to middle-sized businesses fail within the first 2 to 4 years. So he just gave you an answer to how to have better longevity or longer longevity. And then the fact is that 4.2 hours out of every 8 hours worked by employees are productive. So from a business owner standpoint, I'm writing a paycheck on a weekly basis for 8 hours where only 4 of them was even productive. Okay, just think what would happen if you got that team, that ensemble mode in your organization to have everybody increase production by 1 hour. Just think what the overall impact of that business is going to be. And then, like you said, the end user, the customer, they're going to be more willing to want to come back more frequently, more often, maybe spend a little bit more money here or there, because you know what? The whole thing fits. And they're that now missing, they feel like they're that missing puzzle, part of the puzzle as well. It's beautiful. It's like going to just a beautiful Broadway show. I'm not going to talk about the Broncos right now, because right now they're 2-3. So I'm going to go talk about the Broadway show where you just know you went to a great performance.
But also what you say there is so right. For me, as someone who I've worked in the corporate world a little bit, but for most of my life has been in directing shows and in education. Now, I know when I have done my job well, because when I come to the end of a day of work, of rehearsal or of training, and I go, okay, guys, okay, team, we'll leave that there for today. We'll start again tomorrow morning. People don't go home. They get into the corner with someone else and they go, let's try this. How we could do this, whatever. They don't want me to interfere. They don't need my advice. They're doing it because they want to be doing it. Or somebody's gone to somebody else. You did that thing really well. I don't know how to do it. Can you show me? They spend half an hour of their time showing. They become the teacher. not because they're trying to make me think, aren't they wonderful, but because they want to. It's going that extra mile. I remember working in a school in Kolkata once, and the head teacher came in because there was a lot of noise. It was a girls' school. There was 80 something 14-year-old girls in the room, and it was wild. And the head teacher came in, went, "There's a lot of noise. Are you okay, Mr. Britton? You okay?" And I just said, "Look." And all over the room, there were groups of girls working together, excited, passionate. I had nothing to do. They were doing the work with me doing absolutely nothing. And that feels to me like where we need to get to. If you're running a business and you go, "Team, do it," you can then be outside thinking about how to evolve and develop your business instead of micromanaging and firefighting. Because when there's a fire, someone else will go, "Don't worry, I've got it. I'm on this."
All right, Coach. So let's get everybody on the same stage, the same playing field. What are your solutions to help a business owner or leader start this process?
Well, first one I've already mentioned, the starting point always has to be a willingness for the business owner to challenge their own preconceptions and to do the work on themselves necessary to shift their relationship to their work and to their employees. Without that, nothing is going to happen. You set up the business, you are responsible for the shift of the culture. You don't get to impose anything. You have to do the work on yourself first. Secondly, I would suggest that it is useful to provide guidance and ways for your employees to do some of the work on themselves. When I say work on themselves, notice the ways that they block themselves, notice the fears that they bring in, notice the ways that they're defensive, notice their assumptions, all of these things that we can work on. It's basic kind of personal development work, but it has to happen if we want a culture to shift. But then there are structural things. Those are personal development things, but there are structural things. I would suggest creating a culture of communication which ensures that all voices, not only the loudest voices, are heard. And that's just a structural thing. It's how you run meetings. It's whether you encourage people always to speak in public or you encourage direct lines of communication with you and your employees. What is the culture of communication? And will you make the time that those who struggle to communicate are given the space to find their voice? That's a process of encouragement and of giving time. What is the culture of communication within your business? Secondly, I would encourage you to observe your culture of feedback. People think feedback is about saying what went wrong. I think that's a very, very limited and destructive way of thinking about feedback. I equally think it's fairly pointless to think that feedback's a time where we go, celebrate, everything went right. Feedback is about development. And I suggest that there are 3 forms of feedback that we need to give. And it's really useful to separate them. There is what I would call technical feedback. Technical feedback is objective. There is something that needed to be done, and a team or an individual did that. There is a gap between what was achieved and what needed to be achieved. And technical feedback is saying what needs to be put in place to bridge that gap. What software, what training, what resources, what extra time needs to be put in to bridge that gap. It is not personal. It is simply saying we didn't achieve our objective, or perhaps we even overachieved our objective. It's, how do we objectively measure what we achieved against what we needed to achieve? Purely technical feedback. Enacting, somebody who's speaking on stage, I'm in the back row and I go, I can't hear you. That's not saying you're a bad person. It's just saying you actually need to be louder. It's objective. So technical feedback. There's what I call process feedback, where you will be saying to your team, okay, in this business, we do it this way, or I want it to be done this way. And I would like you to do it my way, but I am open to you coming back to me with suggestions about how it might be done differently. It's a managerial feedback, but it's not saying, I know everything, I am right, you must do it my way. It's saying, this is how I want it done, but I am open to new ideas. What I'm not interested in is somebody coming in and telling me how it should be done when they haven't worked out how I do it first. First of all, understand the culture of the business, but then be prepared to contribute to the culture of the business. I call that process feedback. And the third level of feedback is personal feedback, where you go, okay, you seem to be struggling with this, or I think you're doing amazingly well at this. Have you thought of trying to do this sort of thing in the company? It's where you're really dealing with the person. And that's the most sensitive form of feedback. Now, if you don't separate out those feedbacks, if you go in and say, we needed to get to 74% and you've only got to 12%, why can't you do this? Even if you're talking to somebody who really, you get on really well with, they're reading criticism. They are on the defensive. You have attacked them. Even if you don't mean to, they have been attacked. And what was really an attempt to give objective feedback has become personal. You just wanted something to change, and somebody feels that they have been personally attacked. And that's utterly corrosive. You sort of go, yeah, you don't seem to be able to connect with the customers. That's a personal attack. You are not able to connect. Can we change the feedback culture? So you go, there seems to be a difficulty in how connection is happening with the customer. Let's look at how much of that might be structural, how much of it might be processual, and how much of it might be personal. It takes a little longer, but it stops people being on the defensive, because if they're on the defensive, they are going to stay safe. They are not going to be creative. They are not going to contribute. They're going to protect their little castle. And ultimately, when something better comes along, they're going to leave. So we have a culture of feedback. I would suggest we look at a culture of managerial humility. That's my phrase. I don't expect anyone else to use it. I think it was Dee Hock who was the person who set up Visa originally, created the whole Visa credit card system. Dee Hock, he wrote a book about what he called chaordism, the combination of chaos and order within business. You probably know of it, I'm sure. But I think it was Dee Hock who said that the job of a manager is to remove the things that prevent the person she or he is managing from doing their job. In other words, getting things out of the way. I really like that. I always feel that my job as a director is to say, what can I do to permit the performer really just to concentrate on her performance? Really just clear everything else out of the way. But also there's management humility in there. As I clear things out of the way, am I open to having my preconceptions changed by what I see? If I empower a performer, or you empower one of your staff to do something, are you going to be humble enough to go, wow, they're doing it differently to the way I would, but there's something really good in there? In other words, you stop being the person who decides how everything is done, and you become the person who initiates how things are done and has the final decision on how things are done. But in between, you are humble enough to grow and learn. And the last thing I would always look at is a culture of presence. Presence, what do people think presence is? Some kind of woo-woo crazy thing. It's not. All that presence means is being present. It means not going into a meeting with somebody thinking you know what you're going to think about them. This person always annoys me. Just go into the meeting and go, don't have an opinion about them. Listen to what they're saying. If you go, that's a really stupid thing to say, just pause and go, is it, or am I mishearing? Am I sensing this person is not saying something? Is there a stress in the room? Well, it's just a culture of being willing to show the respect of being present with your staff and expecting your staff to show the respect of being present with you. But when you talk to them, have a conversation. Just as when you're talking to your customer, they're not just, a wallet with some dollars in that you're trying to extract. They're a human with needs that you're trying to serve. So be present with them. I think presence is a superpower. The conversation we've had before about what is the secret sauce that makes a performance lift off the stage. It's presence. That's what the superpower is. It's people being really, really connected with the here and now. And so the culture of presence embedded into a business means it's a business that can respond spontaneously to whatever is unfolding in a conversation, in a meeting, in a changing economy.
John, I can't thank you enough for all of your insight, your wisdom, and just you being you. This has been just a wonderful conversation. Please give us some final words of inspiration to help us really move from our point A to point B with this idea of creating this ensemble mode atmosphere in the workplace.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me on, Roger. It's been a real joy talking with you. And I really hope your listeners find useful things in here. I'm passionate about the fact that this work really, really matters. It matters because everything I'm saying here and everything I've done over, the decades of my career thus far has been about working with what it is to be human, not against it. It is not human to sit for 40 hours a week doing something that you hate just because you get enough money to live on at the end of it. That's not how humans operate. We work through joy. We work through passion. We work through believing in an ideal. We work through creativity. This is what humans are. Look at a 6-year-old or a 5-year-old kid. That's what a human is. Endlessly curious, endlessly excited. Now, of course, as we get older, we meet practicalities and pragmatics. Of course, there are businesses that you go, we have to do these things. But the more you can align yourself with your deep level humanity and align your business with how humans, both your staff and your customers, work, the more easeful, unstressful, joyous, and authentic your work is going to be. And what I want for your listeners is that, like a great performance by the Broncos, or like a great, night out at a gig with musicians, it lifts off the stage. That your customers come away and go, I didn't just buy this thing. I had an authentic experience which resulted in me buying this thing. A human experience. Because if we can't be human in business, what can we be?
Yeah. Well, John, thank you again. And how can the audience reach out to you if they want to get in contact with you?
My email, just drop me an email, john@johnbritton.co, or you can find me, John Britton, on LinkedIn. I have a website, which is www.johnbritton.co, not com. Everyone thinks it's com. It's just .co. You can go there. You find me, I'm on Facebook. Just find me and drop me a message. I'm always interested in having conversations, whether those are about working together or just having conversations about ideas. What we're doing here, what you're doing here, Roger, it matters. It's important. What business owners are doing is they try to, provide for their families and provide for the families of the people who work with them. It matters. And we need to have conversations about it. So just reach out, LinkedIn, right. Facebook, whatever. I'm here.
Well, thank you again, John.
Brilliant. Good on you.
My podcast wouldn't be the same if it wasn't for my sponsors and my great supporters. So let me take this opportunity to thank each and every one of them. First of all, I want to thank Rebecca at Custom Bookkeeping and Accounting, delivering trustworthy bookkeeping services since 2003. Dave and Dara at Virtues Matter, making this world a much happier place to be with their Virtues card apps, coaching, and workshops. Stephen at Buller Accounting, giving business owners depth and insight to their numbers. Eric and his team at Ivy Cat Web Design, the real superheroes of web development and design. Jennifer and Jean at the Seavers Real Estate Team, serving Pierce and Kitsap counties with their home buying and selling needs. Maury at the Maury Method, the world's only brainwave entrainment engineer, helping everyone have more clarity, less stress, and overall better brain health. Priya at Pivot My Profit, helping individuals and businesses have better control of their finances and more money at the end of their day. Melissa at the Soul Vibe Energy High, the queen of the aha moments, helping individuals find those holes in their cups, repair the hole, and gain back their positive energy. And finally, Rick at West Sound Recording. You talk, they do all the rest. Thank you, Rick, for all your efforts with the production and editing of my podcast.